Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. You know, if you're an educator, you absolutely know the struggle, right? Watching your students' eyes just kind of glaze over when you hand them a massively text-heavy reading assignment. Well, today, drawing directly from a really fascinating piece of source material called The Pictorial Path to Clarity, we're going to fundamentally rethink how we design our lessons. We are unpacking exactly why relying on dense text creates this completely unnecessary barrier to learning, and how a super simple shift in cognitive strategy can literally unlock deeper, faster comprehension for every single student in your room.
Okay, let's dive into this. Your brain understands pictures faster than paragraphs. I mean, wow, that is a powerful, undeniable truth about human cognition. We've all heard it, that collective, audible groan from a classroom when a 10-page reading packet gets handed out. But contrast that sheer exhaustion with the immediate spark of understanding when you just draw a clear, simple visual on the whiteboard. The comprehension is almost instantaneous. And that's because it's a biological reality of how our minds are wired. A well-designed image totally bypasses a massive amount of unnecessary decoding, and it just makes learning frictionless.
So, let's talk about the core problem here, the burden of mental effort.
Now, what's really interesting about this is just how fast cognitive load skyrockets when students are faced with dense paragraphs. Reading text requires significant, active mental effort. A student's brain has to identify the letters, form the words, decode all the grammar, and then finally attempt to somehow synthesize the underlying meaning. It's this exhausting, multi-step translation process that quickly leads to them feeling totally overwhelmed. Expecting students to build a complex understanding solely from a giant wall of text or a long lecture, it's honestly like handing them a tangled ball of yarn and asking them to wear it. But organized pictures? They do the heavy lifting for you. They reduce that mental effort entirely, basically handing the student a beautifully knitted sweater right from the start.
Which brings us directly to how the brain actually sees patterns.
Let's break down this cognitive sequence step by step, because the biological mechanism here is incredibly fast. Step 1, we see the visual. Step 2, we recognize the pattern. And step 3, we process it quickly. In fact, the human brain can process entire images in just a few milliseconds. That is magnitudes faster than it takes to read even a single sentence. We are biologically hardwired for pattern recognition. A visual presents all the relationships and context at the exact same time, allowing students to grasp the whole picture instantly. And leveraging this incredible processing speed is exactly how we keep students actively engaged instead of mentally fatigued.
Let's move on and see how this builds when we're conquering abstract concepts.
This right here is the big hurdle, right? Abstract concepts, those intangible ideas that completely lack a physical form. Think about teaching the 3 branches of the US government, or the invisible stages of cellular respiration. Trying to grasp these kinds of concepts through text or lecture alone requires immense mental effort, because without any visual grounding, a student's brain is essentially floating in a void, desperately trying to construct a mental model from scratch. The ideas just slip right through their mental fingers because there's absolutely nothing physical to anchor them to.
So how do we fix it? We turn to charts, diagrams, and illustrations. And this brilliantly illustrates the practical toolkit provided by the Pictorial Path to Clarity. We can use specific visual formats to cut right through that complexity and make abstract concepts so much easier to understand and remember. In practice, this means using diagrams to map out complex historical relationships, like, say, the really intricate web of alliances leading up to World War I. It means using flowcharts to break down scientific sequences so your students can easily trace the exact path of the water cycle. And it means using simple, evocative illustrations to ground abstract literary themes, actually giving a physical shape to complex character motivations.
Which brings us to the ultimate actionable conclusion of this explainer. Show it. Don't say it.
So the crucial point is exactly that. Show it. Don't just say it. If you're relying purely on words to explain something complex, you are asking your students to do unnecessary translation work. You're severely taxing their mental effort and risking that the core lesson will just be completely lost. It's really time to audit our teaching materials. We need to look super closely at our syllabus design, our slide decks, our assignment prompts, and even our everyday whiteboard lectures. Wherever there is an exhausting block of text, there's an immediate opportunity to replace it with a clear, structured visual.
So, I'll leave you with this question. What complex idea will you visualize today? Because knowledge is only powerful when it's actually applied. We know for a fact that students understand pictures faster than paragraphs, and that visuals organize information into instant patterns that completely defeat cognitive fatigue. So I want to invite you to try just one visual strategy this week. Take an abstract concept your students usually struggle with, and instead of lecturing or assigning another massive reading, draw it, chart it, diagram it.
Apply this strategy and transform a difficult lesson plan for this coming Monday.